my bottom line is looking good. That is why business will continue to innovate. So for some examples I've seen recently, so I'll be looking at both local and national examples here, because in the local space, yes, we've done a bit of innovation, but there are also a bit of limitation. But we also seen some interesting innovation in the global space. And so packaging innovation, we've seen products how they have emerged in terms of packaging. So for instance, if you see in the tomato paste category, yes, we initially used to see tomato paste only in tin, but recently it's moved into sachets and now currently into packs, pouches, standing pouches, and that's so those are some of the innovations that have happened in packaging. And these innovations usually are always appealing to consumers, because if it's not appealing to consumers, I'll sort of not tell it to be innovation. So in terms of packaging, innovation is really critical, because you continuously want to appeal to your consumers and ensure you're buying your products. Then for efficiency, as I said, we cannot talk about innovation and not talk about the processes, because as you innovate a process or product, your processes is also affected as well. And we have very big FMCG giants like of Nestle, Unilever, that have done very great in this space. So currently, for instance, in processes, we talk about renewable energy. And this is now going into our industry. So you see some of I think I read this recently on Nestle having to use solar panels to power some of their factories. I think this is really fantastic, and I will see that going forward in other places. Yes, we've not seen that in Nigeria, but I want to believe going forward, as we've seen even buildings, companies doing this around this, we continue to see that in our factories, because factories require very large power or energy to power them, and it requires a lot of investment. So these are some of the new things of innovation that we have seen across both packaging, production, and sustainable sourcing as well.
Amazing point. Thank you so much, Foluke. I really like the fact that you're able to highlight all the stakeholders that are involved in getting, in actually seeing an innovation process through. And, that's really laid a number of emphasis on the how. And that's exactly where my next question is going to come from, right? So when we talk about innovation, we're talking about innovative strategies, basically. And then we're thinking, how exactly do we marry all of those stakeholders together in a way that eventually drives the idea of innovation that we want to, achieve. So I would allow Abidemi go for this, as we sit back and listen to your wealth of knowledge on this. Thank you.
Okay, so some of the strategies to take on in terms of innovation would be to look at the total package of the product, and by this I mean products is one of them, like Foluke mentioned earlier on, operations. So I'll just start from the product part of it. I'll hinge it around the 4 P's in marketing. So the product, I'll talk about the packaging, I'll talk about the pricing, I'll talk about a bit on promotions, and a little bit on the supply chain part of it. So for the products, for example, you'd need to improve. So it could be a case of improving on the product recipe when it comes to food, or the raw materials that is used, in producing that one. It can also lead to innovation. Having new variants. So these days you could have a product, a particular brand that has like 10 different variants for you to choose from. That is innovation. So moving away from the conventional, giving people options. So it could actually be about the product recipe. It could also be in the packaging. So for example, you could make your packaging a form of advertisement. One thing that marketeers will call either advertising, in other words, you're advertising on it, or pack entertainment. So you could actually make your packaging into entertainment. So for example, you find some products, I'd use, for example, say like Kellogg's cereal now, you'd see that at the back, there are some of them that have like puzzles, like Slick and Ladder, and there's some other local brands like that as well. So it has moved beyond, just putting, slamming on it, the ingredients and how to use and all of that, to becoming either the information route or to becoming something that can entertain. So that's another thing you can also do. Another strategy is packaging. If you want to look at it from the promotions, for example, you could have like very good combinations, very nice combinations. So for example, supposedly unrelated, what would I say now, categories could be put together. So I know that there's this common example of when on the shelf, people started having beer, diapers very close to where beer bottles are actually sold. And studies showed that when some men, that have babies or that have families go shopping for their cans of beer or bottles of beer, they remember that they have toddlers or children or babies at home, and then it's easy for them to pick up diapers. And there was actually a growth, in the volume of both diapers and beer at the same time. Also, when we go shopping, you see that at the aisles,
that's
when you want to pay at the tills, you find out that you can easily get your candies, you can get your chocolate bars, and some other products. Those are quite innovative. We could look for ways to say in the FMCG, what are possible combinations, promotions that can ensure that people actually buy, your product. So they start seeing it from another lens. Oh, what an interesting brand this is. I haven't actually seen it in that line before. It could also be pricing, some very have like two products or two packs in a particular packaging. So it becomes like a 2-in-1 or a 3-in-1, things like that. It could also be in terms of the operations. How are the raw materials sourced? What are the raw materials that are used? If there was a raw material that was used in the past that people have considered maybe a little bit not very healthy, we know that many people are becoming more health conscious. You want to change your raw material. What is the role of the R&D? What kind of research is done? All of those things are strategic, innovation, strategic routes you can use in actually innovating as a brand, so that people begin to see it from a different light. So those are some of the things that you could use. You could also have like special occasion editions. So sometimes there's some products that during festive period, there are some products variants that you only find during festive period. Those are some of the innovations that you can actually use. So looking at it holistically from what the product is, the actual product in itself, the packaging in which it's coming in, the pricing you're giving it, the placement in the store, the pricing you're putting on it, the source of the raw materials, operations around it. So those are some of the strategies you can actually employ to drive innovation.
Amazing, spot on, Abidemi. Yes, Foluke, you did mention maximizing and deploying technological tools and the entire digital transformation that we have so been speaking about all this while. I would really want you to shed a bit more light on that. As relating to being how exactly can we maximize technological tools when we talk about innovation? Just a bit more light briefly on that. Thank you.
FMCG brands constantly face intense competition in the markets, with numerous brands varying for consumer attention. So they constantly have to innovate with digital transformation. If you are not in the digital space, I don't know where else you should be, especially in this era. And so FMCG's brand have adopted digital transformation to stay relevant in the market. They have developed e-commerce websites, or rather collaborated with e-commerce websites to ensure their products are always available for those who want to buy online. Then also the use of mobile apps. We can't say enough of that. Mobile apps are virtually everywhere. Aside from even FMCG, SMEs also have mobile apps because that's a very easy way to get across their products to as many people as possible. You don't have to be in the physical store any longer. And also social media. Obviously, social media. As I said earlier, social media has come to stay as even some customer service points for some brands. When you have issues with your product and you don't know how to reach them, you can as well reach them through social media. So these are some of the few digital transformations that have happened across FMCG and some of our brands. And you see something I also liked recently was PepsiCo launching their e-commerce platform, that's snacks.com, where they deliver products directly to consumers' doorsteps. So these are some of the innovations that have happened in the digital space. I will not be speaking on the other. I think Bidemi has done justice to the other part in terms of innovation, promotions, and all of that. And one other thing that has also happened around innovation strategies is collaboration, especially collaborating with complementary products or even products outside the category where you play. And we've seen one recently with Pepsi, that's a 7-Up bottling company, and Eat and Go. You know, that's a new collaboration that's happened recently. And also something I really love is Nike and iPod. You know, they collaborated to put together sport kits, you know, those two things. So those are some of the collaborations to ensure that brands get their products into the hands of users, new users, current users, and also help them to use it more often, just increase the penetration and frequency, basically.
Okay. All right. So we'll be seeing quickly how we have created experiences for brands as Cornell Marketing Service. Very briefly, you will be seeing me back on the screen. Welcome back. I'm sure you enjoyed the videos that you saw. Yes, so we'll be going back into our conversations, and our experts are still here, you know, to get the conversations rolling. Great. I like that you took out the collaboration just from my mouth. I was going to, you know, my next question was more around collaboration and partnership. But then seeing that a lot of all of these technological advancement and tools that were used in maximizing in their innovation processes, what exactly are we looking at in the context of FMCG industry?
So, you know, like the general saying that you cannot be an island. There is actually no organization that can maintain sustainability standing on its own. And just to understand that collaboration can actually be, and partnership can be both ways. It can actually be external and internal. So I like the fact that you mentioned stakeholders because, you know, stakeholders are both external and internal. So I'll give examples. Within an organization, I know that so many FMCGs have the R&D department, which is saddled with the responsibility of, you know, doing research, coming up with Laurel ideas when it comes to researching and all of that. However, you'd also have the guys who will produce and the guys who will buy your raw materials. And they're definitely buying the raw material from an outsider. So collaboration is very, very important. Apart from cross-selling, you know, collaborating, having two organizations, having their ready to use or ready to consume products together on the shelf, you know, and having such collaborations. If you do not have very good collaborations with, for example, your raw material supplier, you can imagine wanting something that can, a raw material that can do so much, let's say, I'd say like 100% efficiency, or give your product quality, say like 100%, and then you do not see eyeball to eyeball, you do not have that partnership working. How will you be able to, you know, achieve that kind of product? It could even lead to that person supplying the competition. So partnership is very, very important, and collaboration is very important for successful innovations because you have so many parties that are involved. So that collaboration needs to come, and also generating ideas. When you come together, when you have partnership and you're open to people who are even outside of your field, it exposes you to some ideas that you may otherwise not know. Bearing in mind that the people you're collaborating with are also consumers, or in some cases, customers. So sometimes there are things that brand owners and manufacturers actually cannot see or do not think that is important, that are actually very important when it comes to that innovation, for any innovation to be successful. So having such partnerships, whether within the organization, with your stakeholders, with your R&D department, with your new product department, with your sales team, can imagine not having, a good relationship with your sales force, and then you have a product that, a new product. How are they even going to push it? The logistics part of it, even the finance team. If the finance team, for example, doesn't do justice to whatever your work in developing or in innovating, it's going to actually create a bottleneck. So collaborations and partnerships are very important. If you look at organizations that are really done, have novel ideas, you see that it doesn't come only from looking inwards. There's also the part of looking outwards. So collaboration in terms of even partnership with academia, for example. So you'd see that you'd have some organizations maybe have sent even some of their employees to undertake some courses, within the academic field to get more knowledge, or the researches that are happening, getting knowledge from it, reading such papers and seeing how these researches and these things that they're doing outside of that organizations can actually help to move the brands and the business forward. So collaboration and partnership is very important in bringing in new ideas, making you see things differently from another person's lens, and of course, just moving forward and getting very innovative ideas. So collaboration and partnership is very important and very necessary.
Amazing, amazing. One thing that's quick that you can take out quickly from this is how innovation and or innovation relates directly to collaboration and partnership. So many times, people tend to think innovation as something you do within the innovation department or you do within the marketing department. But seeing how you emphasized, on it being both internal and external, just even sells home the point more that, innovation is collective, meaning that everyone utilizing all of your internal resources and then now looking outside to to competitors in the space, to other players outside of your industry, and how you can effectively, bring to life all of your innovative ideas. And that's what's seen in one of the examples that is stated, that's Pepsi and Domino's Pizza. Amazing, amazing. What that leads me to my next point here, and that's on the fact that usually when we have there's this fear or that risk possibility of you losing your brand's positioning in the context of you wanting to innovate and change with times, and that's usually a fear for many brand managers, and even marketing personnel as a whole, how they look into saying, how do you maintain and sustain your brand's essence and relevance over the years while, more on its core essence. So how do you maintain that, not while also changing with the times and changing with all of the needed things to innovate around? So I would allow Abidemi to speak on this.
To start with, change is the only constant thing in life. And just to borrow Foluke's words, you either innovate or you die. So change is bound to happen. But I would say that for a brand not to lose its essence, you have to first of all define what the brand goal is. You need to know, there's some sort of strategy that you already have for the brand. You know your end goal. So that is what guides you. You cannot remain the same. I can imagine that you pick whatever brand that has existed, say, in the last 50 years. If you look, okay, I'm even going to use a Coca-Cola, for example. It's a very good example when you want to see brands that have actually lived for a very long time, that have, been sustained.
Right. Yeah.
If you take the bottle of Coca-Cola at the point of inception or at the point of launch versus what it is now, it has undergone a lot of changes. However, you cannot miss the fact that it is still a bottle of Coca-Cola. So you need to understand, and there's some brand elements. Once you have your brand elements, some things have to be consistent over time. And communication is very key. So it's not about the change that actually occurs.
I'm listening.
It's about having... Hello, can you hear me?
Abidemi, rather. Yes, I can very much.
Yes, please. Can you hear me now?
I just lost you a little bit. Yes.
Okay.
So
So it's really not
the last
about the
sentence.
changes. Okay, can you hear me now?
Great. Okay. Yes, I can. I can. Please go ahead.
So the issue in this case is not having changes or not effecting any change. That would be very
Right.
foolish of any brand to say, oh, I'm going to just hold on to the way I've looked, or I'm just going to have this one product over time. Even if you're going to have the same recipe, you
Right.
need to ensure that it continues to be appealing to the consumers. And seeing that consumers are changing in terms of their habits over the years, you also need to find a way to move with the trend. So I'd use Coca-Cola as an example. You will see that that Coca-Cola remains the same with the way it is written. I'm talking about that brand in itself, Coca-Cola. It remains the same. There's some elements of the brand that are
Right.
standard. So have you thoroughly defined your brand objectives and your brand goal? So you know at the end of the day, this is what I want my product to give. This is what I want, the emotion I want my product to elicit. So in times where you then need to communicate. So again, I would use one of the brands that Folake had mentioned, Pepsi. Recently, Pepsi made some changes in terms of their logo, in terms of their outlook, and all of that. But it was thoroughly communicated, up to the points, the colors that were used, the fonts, that were used, the way it is written, what it symbolizes. That way, consumers do not get confused. Again, there is a point where you need to also maintain or retain some things. You don't want to just jump from a blue color to a pink color launch where your consumers, where your customer brand, but I would not mention the name of that brand because I want to just call out the danger of not moving with times. I remember that I was having plans for quality. When you talk about quality, it's a laundry bar soap. When you talk about quality, people know that that bar soap has been of very high quality. And then the brand, the soap has a particular color. And then there was just another brand that was imported through soap, and it lost a lot of shares because people moved from it. That's why the fact that they believe that it is of high quality to a new product that was imported because it met their need at that point in time. So at some point, the local brand woke up and then it changed. But at that time, it had lost out on some equity. And some other brands have also come up, small brands, and they've eaten into the shares. So being stagnant is actually a danger. Not changing at all is a danger. But how much change will happen? Are you maintaining the core of the brand? If anything is changing, are you communicating it so that people know? And that's the essence of doing brand launches where you see in the print media, in mass media, all forms of mass media, radio, television. Right now, we also have the social media where people tell you now. New, improved. They tell you they put the old pack and the new pack side by side. There's this case study of I think I can't quite remember the brand, if it's Nivea or Dove right now, where they had actually changed the packaging of the can. It was the same content that was inside, but the packaging had changed in terms of, the height, the width, and all of that. And they demonstrated, it was demonstrated. So people already knew that, oh, so this is this brand. There's an innovation. There's a new technology that's brought into it. So you can have more, the same quantity in smaller cans, and then it's much more effective. And it was communicated. There was no 100% no mix-up or no confusion in the hearts of consumers. So the change happened, but it was communicated. And then some of the brand essence or the brand elements were maintained over time in a way that consumers do not actually totally get confused on that brand. So change is inevitable. Change is actually, innovation actually requires change. That's just the truth. But how much change should we make? How do we communicate it? How do we carry our consumers along? That is what is important when it comes to change.
Yes, going back to my question on COVID-19, we all know how a number of things were drastically changed as a result of the pandemic, and much more now in relation to our conversation is how brands were able to, proactively react to, or rather, they had to react to the situation on ground, right? And then we see many of these different reactions, not just more on seeing social media and all of the other digital and technological tools that were latched on to being used effectively again during this post-COVID era that we are, and even beyond. So yes, I would allow Foluke to take that question.
So COVID-19 has greatly impacted on the innovation stages in the FMCG space. And I've mentioned in earlier discussion about e-commerce, with changes, consumers were shopping online, and
Yes.
people now feel a bit more comfortable even buying grocery. Someone like me, I never believed in buying grocery online. I really want to get to my neighborhood store, have and engage. I want to engage with the products on the shelf so I can pick new ones or also try. But with COVID now, I think I've tried it once or twice, buying my grocery online, so I'm no longer afraid to buy online. It's not that it's fear. I just really like engaging with my products on the shelf. I like seeing new.
I get that.
It's
so would you continue with that?
Well, at different times.
Are you likely to change your buying pattern eventually?
Especially brands that are not always available in my local store. I now have to buy them online.
Right.
Yeah, so those are a few things that have changed. Some imported brands that I do like to buy, I have to go all the way, but now I just buy them online. I don't have to do that any longer. But for my grocery store, yes. For my local brands, I still like to go to my grocery store. As I said, I like engaging
to get them. Okay. Yeah, so I would be, as we approach the end, of this amazing chat, I would really want us to, both speakers, but I will be starting with Abidemi would go first, then Foluke, is how do we, solve the problem of sameness? When we're talking digital transformation, we're talking data, we're talking technology, innovations, and all of that, it's still very needful to be able to differentiate ourselves. We say that a lot as marketing people. So, but it will be really great to to get your thoughts on how exactly do we achieve that form of differentiation from our own from your own expertise and standpoint. So please go ahead.
Okay, so like you mentioned, differentiation is very important. The truth is, at the end of the day, there are common goals. Every business wants to be profitable. All businesses, especially within the same category, are practically talking to the same set of people. We have brands that even have common target audience. So the question is, why give an example? I know that there is a very, very common example that almost anybody in the business world knows. Cola, I'm trying to avoid calling the names of brands, but okay, I'll just call it the two biggest colas that we have in the world is Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola. And we know that when you mention the brand name, once you mention the name of a brand, there is a certain behavior that the consumers will naturally, tend towards because of the affinity that they have with that brand, because of the love that the brand has, generated or grown in their minds. And then over time, when you go to the blind test, and by blind test, I mean that the two different colors of the two different brands are placed in glass or whatever containers that are not labeled. You begin to see different responses. And then people begin to say, oh, this tastes better than that. Oh, this is more refreshing than that. And it may actually be the opposite of what they, the emotions or the reactions or the feedback they gave when they actually knew the name of the brand. So that is the point. Where is the difference coming from? Is the difference coming from, oh, my product has a particular ingredient or has a particular thing that the next one doesn't have? Or is it a case of this product just makes you feel like yourself, you're on top of the world, whatever feeling it evokes. So differentiation is very important. And it is when that differentiation is achieved that you can actually command whatever it is you want to command. So I'm going to talk a little bit about premium. If you have a brand that is premium, or if you want your brand to be premium, it must definitely be differentiated. Differentiation can come in form of the product in itself. It can be the packaging. It can be the placements. You could have two products that are doing exactly the same thing. And then some people see one of them as, oh, this is product for the big boys because it has been positioned that way. And then they're saying, oh, this product is for every other person. So let's even go into the world of technology. I'm going to just use example of the Apple series and others. yes, there are some other brands around within the others that stand out. You know, the Samsungs of this world. Much more recently, the Techno is also stepping up. You know, and other brands. And that's not to say that those brands are not good. If you take two of those phones, they will perfectly perform functions how you want them to perform, or the functions they have been set to perform. But the way people perceive them, and that is the way because the manufacturers are differentiated them in that way. So the products that commands premium, or that feels much more important, or feels for the rich people in quotes, it's because it has been positioned that way. It has been said to be, oh, the product that gives you such feeling, or maybe during their innovation, they have done something out of this world that nobody has done, or first to market advantage. And that differentiation is very key. So differentiation is very, very, very important. Differentiation is what stands a brand out. And that is why when some brands have even become the generic name. Oh, they'll say, oh, they want to buy something. They'll say, oh, they'll mention the name of another brand to buy a particular thing within the same category. So differentiation is very important. That is what stands you out. That is what gives you that edge. That is what makes even consumers become aspirational towards you. So to actually grow a business, to grow a brand, to drive sustainability, to drive longevity, to drive profitability, that differentiation is very important because it now begins to take a different, place in the hearts of consumers. So differentiation is key, and there are so many ways that differentiation can happen. It can even be in the way you're communicating. It can be the type of packaging. So you see companies these days saying, "Oh, we're sustainable. We don't use plastics again." Or you hear people, or you even see on some packaging, they'll say product from recycled materials, or this bottle or this can or whatever it is 100% recyclable or made from recycled materials. So those are the kind of differentiation. When people begin to think that, oh, there's something different about it, or maybe the brand is giving back to the community in terms of the CSRs they are doing, or they're saying, oh, save water, or they're just championing one of these goals, the sustainability goals. So these differentiations are important, and it may be functional in terms of what the product is delivering. It may be emotional in terms of the way it makes people feel. So, but definitely differentiation is important in innovation, and is important for any brand to stand out.
All right, thank you so much. It just really brings home the point all over again, saying the fact that when we talk about brand sustenance, we're really, really talking about how the brand in its differentiated form from every other, because we understand that every brand, is differentiated from all of its other competitors and every other brand that exists. Yeah. So being able to tell that, necessity around being able to differentiate yourself even within the innovation space is very key. So I really, really do love that. Thank you so much. So I would allow Foluke also to speak on this, and while she also gives us her last words around, all of the conversation that we've been having, up until now. Foluke, you can go ahead.
So differentiations, as she has mentioned, it's very important when it comes to products and brands. That is what sets them apart. That's their unique selling point, and that's what they make them different. That's in terms of the product. Now, we've seen that differentiations have gone ahead beyond just the products and services that have been offered. So a product could also be differentiating in the way they do their messaging, or let me simply call it marketing innovation, the way they communicate, the way they do their ads, the way they reach out to their consumers. I can remember in the early days of mobile service providers, people loved MTN hats. Their hats were really very unique. It just goes straight into and lands on the unique human reality. So they were differentiated. Right. So that's one of the ways a brand can differentiate itself. The way it sends across its messaging across different platforms, very engaging. So those are one of the ways in which brands can differentiate themselves, the way they communicate and message to their consumers. Another way brands also differentiate is through digital innovation. As we've said, we cannot, but we've seen very good ads and adverts that have happened around the digital space. A very good one is Share a Coke campaign. This was one ad that went viral, across all platforms, both digital, physical, across all consumer touch points. So apart from just product marketing, digital innovations are ways that brands can differentiate themselves. And this is what consumers really enjoy to see, something new. You want to see something different. They're tired of seeing the very thing every day everyone does. So now if you see a lot of brands have started differentiating themselves in some of the campaigns to run. You know, some brands have differentiated themselves through campaigns they run. So for instance, we saw Unilever beauty and brand campaign on the L'Oreal. Those were very beautiful campaigns. And so these are ways differentiated themselves apart from the product, apart from the services, but the way they communicate, some of their promotions and communications as well. So these are ways the competitors have differentiated themselves and they have grown their market share. You know, if you can remember Pepsi Long Throat campaign, this is one campaign too that went very viral and placed Pepsi on a very good pedestal in the minds of consumers. About 5 or 7 years ago. I can't remember what the exact time now. So those are ways brands have grown their market share and have differentiated themselves in the minds of consumers because they kept constantly engaging and speaking to the consumer language and also speaking to the consumer mind. So those are ways brands have also differentiated themselves and also call this innovation. But I haven't said that if you differentiate yourself with the products, with the packaging, with your ways of communication, digital, I haven't said all of this, your product must deliver both on functionality. That's very important because that's what keeps the brand consistent and
very key
to being relevant in the market space. So my last word will be that we've spoken a lot about innovation and sustainability, and those things go hand in hand. For a brand to remain constant and relevant in this very competitive space, you have to be innovative. And being innovative, you also have to be sustainable. And consumers are now currently constantly being aware of our sustainability, doing your business in a doing business in a profitable way, doing business in an ethical manner, and not taking advantage of consumers. Those conversations are beginning to heighten and consumers are getting aware of that. So I would say stay ahead of the pace of change or you get toast. You know, you just have to stay ahead with the games of change. So your segment, wherever you play, so that you can remain relevant in that space.
So I would simply say that 3 things are very key for innovation. It must first of all be feasible. Is it even possible, for it to happen? It must be desirable. So what is the essence of an innovation that nobody wants? That is as good as wasting your time and money and every other thing that has been put into it. And it must be viable. So it must be profitable at the end of the day. It must add to the business. Remembering the sustainability, and no organization can be sustained if they go bankrupt. If anybody goes bankrupt, the brand is definitely dying. And finally, I'd like to say that innovation, as we say, it is good, but innovation that is not put into use is not innovation. It is simply invention. So we need to go out there, and as marketeers, as human beings generally living, we need to innovate, and innovation is putting into use what we have created. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Foluke. Thank you so much, Abidemi. Thank you, everyone, for joining in so far. It's been an amazing experience on this call. I'm sure everyone has learned 1 or 2 things. I have also learned a whole lot, on this call. This is Cornell Marketing Services, in case you forgot, an experiential marketing agency that gives you experience-led solutions to all of your business problems. Thank you so much. Please do follow us on our social media pages, check our website, and we'll be here again another quarter having conversations with you on the Brand Chat.